Episode 1, The Teacher We Remember. This episode is all about the personal and professional qualities which we teachers ought to possess. I have accomplished learning episode 1 by following the instructions, which is to watch the given link. In episode 1, I had a self-reflection as a future teacher someday and had a recall of my former teacher whom I have evaluated if they were a great teacher or not. My learning artifacts. Learning episode 2 and 3 discusses about action research. Action research is a process that allows teachers to study their own classrooms, schools, and educational setting in order to understand them better and to improve their quality and effectiveness. I have searched online list of complete AR titles by teachers in the field in order to answer questions in the episode 2 and 3. Learning episode 4 and 5 is all about recalling the observation of experience during the conduct of field study 1, matching problems with appropriate action, and revisiting concept of learning environment in the context of the current teaching and learning situation. My learning artifacts. Episode 6, Enhancing a Face-to-Face Learning Environment. Learning episode 6 is all about the advantages of a face-to-face learning environment, the changes in the face-to-face classroom spaces, and the evolution of teaching learning series. My previous experience of face-to-face gave me ideas to answer all activities in this learning episode 6. My learning artifacts. Portfolio entry. Title: Face-to-Face Learning Environment. Episode 7, Making Online or Virtual Environments Safe and Conducive. In this learning episode, we explored and learned the different ways of establishing a safe and conducive online or virtual learning environment. Virtual classrooms refers to digital learning environment that allows teachers and students to connect online in real time. We learned the different safety reminders and ways for virtual learning to be fun, interactive, and less boring. My learning artifacts. List of websites and the titles of the contents. Episode 8, Establishing My Own Classroom Routines and Procedure in a Face-to-Face Remote Learning. This learning episode is all about classroom routines and procedure in a face-to-face or remote learning, its importance, effectiveness in the different mode of learning, how to implement what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and why those need to be done. Reflection, insights I have gained while doing this episode. My learning artifacts, procedures I have formulated. Episode 9, Creating My Classroom or Remote Learning Management Plan. Learning episode 9 taught us the importance of classroom management plans, wherein we as a teacher should be creative and use professional reflections and learning to improve practice. We are able to enumerate the components of a classroom management plan and create our own management plan. Reflection, insights I have gained while doing this episode. My learning artifacts. My classroom remote plan. Episode 10, Writing My Learning Lesson Plans. In this episode, I have learned the importance of lesson learning plans, how to write lesson plan using specified learning competencies, reflections, and effective communication skills, how to revise lesson plan based on feedback, and cite some problems encountered in writing lesson plan. Episode 12, Selecting Non-Digital or Conventional Resources and Instructional Materials. Learning Episode 12 tackles about the use of suitable resources or instructional materials based on lesson objectives or learning outcomes. Selecting and developing resources and materials that are not ICT-based, and how to be resourceful in tapping non-digital or conventional resources and material. Edgar Dale's Cone of Experience. My Learning Artifacts. Episode 13, Utilizing Application Apps for Teaching and Learning. This episode tackles about the different kinds of applications which is appropriate in enhancing both the delivery of content and the learning and mastery of the students. We learned the pedagogy wheel model and excellent guide for choosing application to enhance teaching and learning. Episode 14, Utilizing Learning Management Systems. This episode discusses about utilization of the learning management system as a virtual learning environment, its components, features, and functions. In this episode, we are taught to demonstrate skills in using LMS as platform for teaching and learning. LMS is a course organizer software used to help teachers plan, create, manage, and deliver online education programs. Below are some of the LMS common features and the function and tasks the teacher is able to use. Episode 15, Utilizing Web Conferencing Apps for Synchronous E-Learning. This learning episode talks through identifying features and functions of web conferencing applications that are useful to instruction. Demonstrate skills in web conferencing apps for synchronous teaching and learning. Know how to access, evaluate, and utilize the features and functions of apps. Episode 16, Assessing for, as and of learning. This episode is concerned mainly with assessment for learning and assessment as learning. It touches a little on assessment of learning, which is the main focus of the next episode. Assessment for learning, also referred to as formative assessment, implies that assessment is at the service of learning. The 3 phases on assessment that we have met in our assessment courses are assessment for learning, assessment as learning, and assessment of learning. Assessment for learning is more known as formative assessment, while assessment of learning is called summative assessment. Several authors claim assessment as learning as self-assessment. Reflect. My Learning Artifacts. Episode 17, Using Traditional and Authentic Types of Assessment for Formative and Summative Purposes. The essence of outcome-based teaching learning model is the alignment of learning content, teaching and learning activities, and assessment task with intended learning outcomes. AUTO includes assessing students' learning to determine if the learning outcomes set at the beginning of the lesson, chapter, or unit have been attained. Depending on the learning outcome to assess, the assessment task that teacher formulates can be a traditional or an authentic assessment task. Episode 18, Grading and Reporting. In this episode, we will interpret scores correctly, compute grades based on the departmented grading system, and report grades to parents or guardians during Parents-Teachers Conference. Criterion Referenced Assessment. In Criterion Referenced Assessment, we compared a student's performance against a criterion of success, which is a predetermined standard. In Criterion Referenced Assessment, each student's performance is compared directly to the predetermined standard without considering how other students perform in the assessment. Norm-referenced assessment. In norm-referenced assessment, compare the student's performance with the performance of other students, the norm group, not against a predetermined standard. The composition of the norm group depends on the assessment. Episode 19, Writing an Initial Action Research Plan.